Welcome to No Broken Legs. It is the final week of the NFL regular season, and to let you know who will be in and who will be out of the playoffs is Jimmy Cham. Jimmy, thank you for joining me on this Friday night.
Man, no place I'd rather be. Late night tonight, bud. Thank you for hanging in there while I finished up some stuff at the old house. And I can't wait to talk about these couple crazy scenarios that I think might just happen.
Yeah, and one of the craziest scenarios on the board right now is the Pittsburgh Steelers making the playoffs. They have to win, and Miami and New England have to lose. I'm not dealing with ties. That's just too much for my brain to wrap around right now. Plus, you can't really bet ties. But
Right.
so the Pittsburgh Steelers are hosting the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 40, plus 120 for the Browns, minus 145 for the Steelers. When we were bowling last night, Jimmy, you said there's no way the Browns can win this game. Is there? Is that how you still feel about it?
I think, especially with the Clowney stuff, I still feel, unfortunately, 100% certain that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this football game by a field goal. Probably a last-second field goal, maybe a double doink that goes in, something that really rips at the heartstring. But Pittsburgh seemingly is rallying around Pickett. I still don't know if he's any good or not. Probably exactly how I felt when young Ben Roethlisberger was taking the field. They've found their identity seemingly on both sides of the ball. They're playing with a lot of passion, a lot of intensity, and I don't know if the Cleveland Browns are going to be able to get up to match that. You would think they should be able to. They're still the more talented roster, but I am absolutely tilting towards the Steelers here.
You mentioned the Clowney stuff, which is it's just incredible. I wish I could remember who it was in the group that I put a post up about it and he just responded like the balls on this guy.
Yeah.
It's like you really haven't done anything on the field. You missed a quarter of the season and you're just like peacing out. Like the balls. Like you're not hurt. Like he's just trying to get out of a game so he doesn't have to worry about getting hurt. At least that's what it looks like to me. Do you see it differently?
No, I see it the exact same way.
Yeah, and then now we've got I don't know. I definitely think some of this stems from how the team responded to Garrett's driving incidents, which we know are plural. We know they've happened before, and it seems he's learned his lesson after almost killing himself and another person, which is good. I'm glad that was a lesson he's able to learn before something more significant happened. But it definitely sowed some discontent in the locker room, and it just plays into more of what we've talked about with there isn't a general level of accountability. It seems to just sort of rise and fall based on the whims of, I guess, the fan base. It's like it seems but I guess not, because if it was based on the fan base, then half the coaching staff would be fired.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily know if I think that's a bad thing.
It's just the clown show's back, man. It never left town. It just sort of simmered on the back burner for a little while when Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback, and it also plays into something I think that this team does, which is they don't treat their players like human beings.
I think that's a big part of it.
I know these guys are paid a lot of money to play football, but they're humans, and ego plays a lot into this. And if they think they're being treated unfairly, then they're not going to play as well as if they think they're being treated fairly. Like it's pretty straightforward, I would think.
Yeah, and okay. So I agree with everything you've said. I agree with everybody bashing Clowney. There is one spot where I'm going to take the side of Jadeveon Clowney. And I think Myles Garrett probably feels the exact same way. Because like that piece where Clowney says, I don't feel like the coaching staff believes in me. And I think part of that now Clowney's been hurt. He's underachieved as a Cleveland Brown. There's no doubt about that. But maybe he would have underachieved less had Joe Woods been more creative with defensive line structure and setup.
I would agree with that. I mean, we clamored for basically as long as he's been here for them to move Garrett and Clowney around on the line. And when they do move those guys around on the line and put them next to each other, good things tend to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, but again, here we are. It's the end of a season, and he's not going to be back. There was some ugliness with Landry before he left. Obviously, all of the nonsense that happened with Baker, that all ties into it too. I think Clowney saw what happened with Baker, and he realizes he's out the door. I think Hunt realized the same thing, and we'll get to them here in a little bit, but nobody knows if Lamar Jackson's playing, and I guarantee you a big part of that is because he saw what happened with Baker last year.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I am just I think this would be that spot, because you talked about the fan base, we're all hoping Sean Payton makes a call. We're hoping, I think on one hand, I think most Browns fans feel like Kevin Stefanski probably deserves an entire non-circus offseason with the Deshaun Watson era.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be a non-circus. There's the civil case that's still out there. Yeah, so I mean,
true.
It's still going to be a circus, but he gets a whole off season.
Yeah, but then you also have to realize that, to me, Kevin Stefanski does not feel like a guy who's going to fire one of his coaches. Just myself personally.
And the defense has played better of late.
They have. So Stefanski comes back, the whole staff comes back.
Yeah, I don't see any scenario in which Stefanski doesn't come back. What it's going to take to get somebody better than him, they're if you go get Sean Payton, he's not going to want to listen to Dee Podesta.
No, you're right. But
that's just that's not how that's going to work.
But then on the other hand, we've all been screaming, Kevin Stefanski needs to put that play sheet down, put the analytics aside for a little bit, and show he can be a leader of men. This would be a game to show you are the leader of men. A game that, in the grand scheme of things, means nothing, except it absolutely means the Pittsburgh Steelers cannot go to the playoffs. And it gets you another win with Deshaun Watson, who, I think the broken touchdown made people think Deshaun Watson played better than he actually did last week.
Man.
The numbers weren't good.
I mean, the 3 touchdowns look great, but the first one to Amari Cooper on the sideline was just, I felt embarrassed for that Washington defender. That's going to be, that must have been a tough film session on Monday or Tuesday when they were back.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody for all our Baker bashers out there, just think of what you would say about Baker if he had a game where he threw 3 touchdowns, but only threw for 200 yards and only completed 50% of his passes.
Jimmy,
I know what you would say,
Jimmy. There's people that downplay the fact that he threw for 353 touchdowns and no interceptions in Pittsburgh for a playoff game. That just doesn't matter. That game didn't happen. That wasn't good.
But this would be the game to really go into the off season on a high note and do what you can. It should quiet everything down a little bit for Andrew Berry to figure out what he needs to do to fill the holes in the roster. It should quiet down everybody chirping about Kevin Stefanski not being able to be a leader. And I think that's what they need to do. I just don't think they can do it. I don't think Kevin Stefanski is a leader of men. I don't think that. I don't think he's ever had to do that. I think I don't think Mike Zimmer was ever grooming him to kind of be his replacement. I think he was just a great piece alongside Mike Zimmer, and it worked really well together. Just what we talked about, like that maybe we need the Browns need a defensive coordinator that's a little bit more outspoken, more loud than Joe Woods, which
They
may
need
be
an ass
helpful.
kicker. That's what they need. They
Yeah,
need an ass
they do,
kicker.
they do, because this game, like to Browns Nation, to Browns fans, to Steelers fans, like this game is important. Like to think the only time Mike Tomlin has a losing record is a end of season loss to the Cleveland Browns.
I,
Like that
I
shit's
think
gonna matter.
I think that's it though. I mean, this is a team that has embarrassed the Cleveland Browns for most of the last 2.5 decades.
Yes,
And now,
absolutely.
if you want me to take you, I said it last week, if you want me to take you seriously as a playoff contender next season, you have to beat Washington. Okay, you beat Washington. I take you seriously as a team that can compete for a playoff spot next year. But if you can go out there and throw 3 touchdowns against this Pittsburgh defense, then at least keep an open mind about what Deshaun Watson's ceiling on the field is. I still have some doubts, but you light it
Oh,
up
that's too
against
high.
this Steelers defense, then that's a real thing because they're going to take away Nick Chubb. They usually do. They're not going to
Yeah.
let you run the ball, and they're not going to let Cleveland stay on script. And
No.
they weren't off script last week, and things looked pretty good after that just pretty horrendous first half. They were able to run the ball, though,
Yeah. Just yeah.
and that helped open up some of the passing. But I just don't think they're going to be able to come up with enough plays to beat Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh wins, and I think there's a real chance that Pittsburgh's going to wind up in the playoffs again, and we're going to get a chance to bet against Kenny Pickett in the first round, which would make me very happy.
Yeah. I mean the way I picked the dog.
We'll get
Yeah.
to
Well,
those
we'll get into
games.
it. We'll get into it. We'll get to it.
First off, we'll start the rest of the games. We're going to go in order in the AFC and then the NFC of these games and what their importance is for the playoff scenarios. So we're going to start with Kansas City. They are traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Chiefs are 8.5 point favorites. The over/under is 52.5, minus 435 for the Chiefs on the money line, plus 345 for the Raiders. It's pretty simple for the Chiefs. If they win, they get the 1 seed and they get the bye. We'll talk next about the Buffalo game and what happened on Monday night here in just a second. But Kansas City's probably winning this game. Jimmy, can they cover the 9 points here, or do you think they just try to skate out with a win and Vegas can keep it kind of close or maybe get a backdoor cover like Denver did last week?
No, I think years ago, I think Andy Reid, I think he's learned from this situation. I think he's made these mistakes before. He's learned from it. I think Kansas City is going to be all go, especially because they know if they win this game, then they're going to get the bye. I would tease this up. I could even tease this up to 14 if I had another game where I felt I needed a few more points. I think the Chiefs are going to roll in this game. The Raiders played hard last week, but I believe the Chiefs win this game by 2 touchdowns and lock up the number 1 seed. And it makes my Kansas City Chiefs AFC uh,
Best record.
best record in the AFC. Has it going forward, looking like the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. Well, I guess I don't
This
know.
is this is
This
this
is going
is
to be weird.
I'm
The
not
AFC
betting
is going to be
this.
weird.
I think Kansas City wins this game, and I'm looking for a bunch of teases to put together with them. But the night, like this is the week that I want to see Kansas City put the hammer down.
Yeah,
I want to see him go out there and I want to see him beat the Raiders and beat him, like you said, by 2 touchdowns because the offense should have no problem moving. And it just comes down to what does that defense look like? Because the only team that the Broncos have looked like a competent offense against is the Chiefs. And that's very worrisome for that defense.
yeah, yep.
All right, our next game is the Buffalo Bills are hosting the New England Patriots after last week's game was canceled when Damar Hamlin had a heart attack on the field and was resuscitated. And the latest news is that he is awake, he's conscious, he video chatted with some of the team members today, so it looks like he's going to pull through. I have no idea what this means for his playing career, but he's definitely just knowing that he's in the state he is now and that he's recovered that much has really got to help this Buffalo Bills team. That was just a really scary incident on Monday, Jimmy.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And the thing I think about the most is, I have the privilege. I work for a large international company, and every site our company has, you have to have a first responder team. And I'm fortunate with my position within the company. I'm part of the first responder team, and we do CPR and AED training once every 2 years. And there's always a moment. There's always a moment when we're doing that AED training where you look around the room at the people you're in the room with, and you just think, man, this would be like terrifying as hell to have to do this at work. And I can't imagine what it had to be like to seeing them try to resuscitate him on the field. Like, that's an image that I don't know how you get rid of that image. I don't know. But now that he is okay, he has FaceTime with teammates. Man, if you can win an MVP in the last week of the season, Josh Allen might be about to do it.
Well, let's get into the game then. Buffalo are 7-point favorites. The over-under is 43.5. The Patriots are plus 260 on the money line, minus 315 for the Bills. You have to imagine that place is going to be just incredible. Like, that's going to be a pretty incredible crowd. I imagine the Bills are going to come out, and I think they're just going to lay the smackdown on the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots are very good, and I think Buffalo's going to come out. I think they're just going to come out with a lot of emotion, and I think it's going to be the type of emotion that propels them to a pretty easy win.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the Bills are going to just roll in this game. I love the over here. I think they'll score 40 by themselves, and I'm sure the Patriots will find a way to get 3 or 4 points. So, I love
like
Buffalo in this spot.
A lot.
I think they just dominate this football game.
The other team that was involved on Monday night was the Cincinnati Bengals. They are hosting the Baltimore Ravens. They are 9-point favorites now. This was a 7-point spread earlier in the week, so a lot of action towards the Bengals. The over-under is 39.5, plus 360 for Baltimore, minus 450 for Cincinnati. We alluded to it earlier with Lamar Jackson. It just doesn't look like he's going to play in this game either. And I don't see how Baltimore can possibly put up enough points to keep this game close. What do you think here, Jimmy?
I don't know. I'm going to be totally honest. This is a complete stay away for me. I don't know what Cincinnati is going to look like. I don't know what Baltimore is going to look like. Like, I don't know what that relationship is with Lamar Jackson and that team right now, and that scares me. So this is a stay away for me. For the sake of the pot, I'm going to take Baltimore just because it's an AFC North game at the end of the season, and 9 points seems like a lot to me. It just seems like a lot, so I'm going to take Baltimore. But this is a total stay away from me. I really don't know. Like, I feel like I know enough about Sean McDermott as a coach that I know he's going to have that team ready to play, much like I feel about Kevin Stefanski. While nothing but kudos to Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott for possibly going against the NFL's wishes. The NFL wants to deny. They want to try to throw Joe Buck. They want to try to crucify Joe Buck, who we might not like him in Cleveland, but he is a professional. He didn't just pull 5 minutes out of thin air. Like, you wanted these guys to play. And those two coaches made a great decision. But I'm still not sure where I think Zach Taylor comes down on leader of men. So
here is my rebuttal and why I'm going to take Cincinnati. I don't think it matters because I think Joe Burrow is that guy for that team.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
You could,
and I think they're going to be able to put up enough points. I just think I think they're gonna have a lot of emotion, and I think it's going to be a good kind of emotion because I think they're going to follow Burrow's example, which is to funnel that into focus and playing well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. We'll see.
We'll
We'll
see.
see. I don't know.
Our next matchup features the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Tennessee Titans to see who wins the AFC South. The Jaguars are 6.5 point favorites. The over/under is 40, plus 228 for the Titans, minus 275 for Jacksonville. I might have been wrong about your boy Dobbs, Jimmy. He looked like he might kind of be able to be a quarterback. I don't
He
know.
looked
He definitely
he
has
looked
his deficiencies, but
he
as a
looked okay,
backup,
man.
yeah, why not?
He looked okay. Give me the Jaguars all day here, right? I just
Yeah, they
there's
should be able to win this game, and I feel like Doug Peterson will have something. He'll have something cooked up.
yeah.
Like there's gonna be some form of gimmick play that he runs that they get for they're gonna hit it for a touchdown, and I think that'll definitely be the difference here, and that'll clear the 6.5.
Yeah, I think this year, I would like this year to do our first annual No Broken Legs NFL awards, and I would like to get some of our guests who we've had on the show, and maybe some of the other listeners we have that tune into us, because I am so intrigued by Coach of the Year. Because if if Doug Peterson pulls this off and they win the AFC South, like I'm not sure you can say another coach has done a better job than Doug Peterson has done this year. Like I'm super impressed with the growth Trevor Lawrence has had. He's figured out how to properly use Travis Etienne. Like Christian Kirk is playing to the level a lot of people thought he would play in Arizona. Like they look really good. They have a lot of energy. I think I think maybe all the carries have finally caught up to Derrick Henry a little bit. When he's not playing the Houston Texans, he's just not the same guy.
Well, he's probably going to get 30 carries in this game too,
Probably,
if
but
they can keep it close enough to still run the ball.
yeah. So, but yeah, I love Jacksonville here, and I think it's just a great job. And I think the quarterbacks that are going to be in the playoffs for the AFC minus Kenny Pickett are exactly what the NFL wants to see.
Yeah, I like the Jaguars too. That plus 600 before the season. If you were with me on that, pat yourself on the back because I think you're going to be cashing that ticket in on Sunday night.
Yes, yes.
Where's this? Up next, we have the Miami Dolphins, who are hosting the New York Jets. Miami 3.5 point favorites. 37 is the over/under. Plus 147 for the Jets. Minus 172 for the Dolphins. The playoffs, that last playoff spot will be determined by New England. If they win, they're in. If New England loses and Miami wins, Miami's in. If both of them lose, then and Pittsburgh wins, Pittsburgh's in, as we said. Jacksonville has a path to the playoffs. If Miami, New England, and Pittsburgh all lose, Jacksonville will get the last playoff spot, even if they lose to Tennessee, which is just wild.
It is crazy. We did not envision, one thing we got wrong in the AFC, and I guess we should have realized what it was going to be like, but we really thought it was going to take 10 or 11 wins to make the playoffs in the AFC. We really thought that, and it just didn't quite take that many.
Yeah, and these teams have blown a couple of games too, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of them should be kicking themselves and the Browns should be one of them, because with just a few plays here and there, you could be looking at having a 10-win season and having yourself punch a ticket to the playoffs. I'm surprised that I guess I'm not surprised that last playoff seed is going to go to a 9-win team. I just thought one of them would get to 10.
So I read two reports today that make it sound like the Dolphins front office is willing to sacrifice Mike McDaniel as the reason for Tua's situation. That if the Dolphins do not win this game and make the playoffs, that they are possibly willing to move on from McDaniel, which I think would be a mistake because I think he's done a pretty good job. But I was very surprised when I read that. but that makes me wonder what the atmosphere is like there in Miami. So I'm going to go ahead and roll with the Jets one more time this year. One more Jets money line for me, and I really do. I think the Steelers are going to get that last playoff spot in the AFC.
And it's just Tua is not going to play in this game. Skylar Thompson, I don't
Yeah.
know who that is because Teddy Bridgewater just doesn't seem capable of getting through games, which is a bummer.
Yep.
Teddy B has always been a professional. I liked we both liked him coming out of
Yep.
college, but
We sure did.
he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's been okay to good when he's been on the field, but I'm with you, man. I like the Jets this week. Give me the Jets. Jets, Jets, Jets. It's the Jets are a team that's got to be kicking themselves when it comes to not making the playoffs, but they also had some
Yeah.
injuries. Zach Wilson probably not going to be around much longer.
No. No, I wouldn't think so.
Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the New York Giants. The over under on or the Eagles are 14-point favorites. The over under is 43, minus 950 on the money line for the Eagles, plus 650 for the Giants. The Eagles win this game, they clinch the 1 seed. Dallas is locked into their locations, so I think it's pretty clear everybody expects the Giants to rest a lot of their guys, and they'd be smart to do it. Uh, Minshew, 0-2. I'm not surprised by that. Are you surprised by that, Jimmy?
No, no, not at all. Even with the talented roster that the Eagles have, like it's still Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. I know people like to talk themselves into that, but he's just not. I think they have to win this week, right? Like they win this game. They're not blowing the division in the 1 seed.
No, yeah, I think they win the game. I don't know if I believe they're going to win it by 14, even against the Giants' backups. Though. I think I'm taking the
I think that's
Giants
very
here.
fair.
I
I
think,
lean Giants in this too. I wouldn't bet the spread on this. I'd put this in a tease with the next game we're going to talk about with because I think Philadelphia wins the game just like I think Kansas City wins the game. I'm definitely not as confident about Kansas as about Philadelphia covering 14 as I am Kansas City covering 9.
yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I don't think they can cover the 14, but I do think they'll win, and it's going to be a heck of a road to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC going through Philadelphia.
Yeah, and if the Eagles were to stumble, the San Francisco 49ers are waiting in the wings. They're hosting the Arizona Cardinals. If the Eagles lose and San Francisco wins, San Francisco gets the 1 seed and the bye. The 49ers are also 14-point favorites over the Cardinals. 39.5 is the over-under. Plus 700 on Arizona for the money line. Minus 1,000 for San Francisco. I think San Francisco is going to roll. I just that Arizona team looks like it's ready to implode, and all of those guys look like they're going to want to be anywhere but at the team facility next week.
Yeah, yeah, no, give me San Francisco here. They can win this game by 3 scores. No problem. They're going to do their part and get ready to host a playoff game.
Also watching that Eagles game very closely are the Dallas Cowboys. For if the Eagles lose and the Cowboys beat Washington, Dallas will win the NFC East. And in the game that they're playing, they are 7-point favorites over the Armada. 40 is the over-under, minus 320 for the Dallas Cowboys, plus 260 for the Washington Commanders. Is there any way Dallas kind of sneaks this through? Like, I don't think the Eagles are going to lose. I assume Washington's going to win this game. That team seems like a mess.
You mean Dallas?
No, I think Washington's a mess. Like all this
Right.
stuff with starting Carson Wentz. Like I don't
Right.
want
You
to.
think Dallas is going to win the game, though?
Yeah, I think Dallas wins the game. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know what to
agree.
expect of
Like,
Washington in this game, though. I mean, and
yeah,
plus
I
Dallas
think.
is perfectly capable of fucking this up. I guess.
Well, that's true too. But yeah, I agree. I think Ron Rivera's post game, coupled with how bad Carson Wentz played, I think that's another team that's probably ready to be done with this year. So yeah, I'm taking the Cowboys here. Like I don't think the Eagles are going to lose, but I think Dallas is still going to want to play a solid game to get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, the only thing I wouldn't bet this game because the last thing you want is Dallas is like say up 10 going into the fourth quarter and the Eagles are up like 3 scores on the Giants. And Dallas says, all right, we're just going to shut our guys down for the fourth
Yep.
quarter. So
Yeah.
just be wary of that. I like them to win. Careful with the 7. Up next, we have the Seattle Seahawks. They are hosting the LA Rams. They are 6-point favorites at home. 41.5 is the over-under, plus 215 for the Rams, minus 265 for the Seahawks. The Seahawks clinch a playoff berth if they win, and Green Bay loses, or and forget the or. That's a tie. We saw some good from Baker. We saw some bad from Baker. We saw some mediocre from Baker. I don't think this Rams team is very good in its current state. I don't think Baker's good enough to elevate them. I think this Seattle team comes out and gets themselves a win, and I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs, which is
Well,
drastically different than what I thought was going to happen at the beginning of the season.
they're 100% not going to make the playoffs because of the team we're going to talk about here in a minute. But they're also not going to make the playoffs because they're going to lose this football game.
Oh, that'd be a really bad loss for Pete
It
Carroll,
is.
and it'd be a
It
bad
is.
way for them to end a season that
It
has
is.
been really good.
It is going to be a bad loss, but it is going to happen. Give me the Rams and give me the Rams money line.
Boom. You heard it from Jimmy Champ, man. You're usually all over the Rams. You're making me reconsider things here. I definitely wouldn't bet this game because I don't trust Seattle.
Yeah, exactly.
Gino hasn't been good enough for me to trust him, but I do think Seattle's going to win this game because up next we have the Green Bay Packers hosting the Detroit Lions. The Packers are 4.5-point favorites. The over/under is 49, plus 190 for the Lions, minus 225. You're taking the Packers here, I assume, sir?
There's really only one game you need to bet on this week, and it's this one. Give me the Packers. Give me Aaron Rodgers. Inject it in my veins. Everybody that told me how good the Fighting Dan Campbells were, you know what's going to happen Sunday? Jared Goff versus Aaron Rodgers with a playoff spot on the line. And if you truthfully believe that the Fighting Dan Campbells are good enough to win, please go ahead, make a bet on the Detroit Lions. Be wrong and sad. That's fine with me. The Green Bay Packers are winning this game. The Green Bay Packers are going to the playoffs. They'll lose in the playoffs, but end of year, regular season, gotta win games to make playoffs is peak Aaron Rodgers. He is going to be phenomenal in this football game. Aaron Jones is going to show out as well. The Packers are going to the playoffs. Good.
So I just realized I was reading that wrong. Yeah, the Packers are going to win this game, and they're going to go to the playoffs. So Seattle will not go to the playoffs. Uh, I really wanted to bet against the Packers in this game, but it's Aaron Rodgers versus Jared Goff.
It matters.
The Carson Wentz rule that I talked about last week is in full effect this week. You bet against Jared Goff here, and you know that if you lose your bet against Jared Goff, that Seattle's probably going to the playoffs, and you get to bet against. Or let me start that again.
Yeah.
You know that if you bet against Jared Goff here, that even if he wins this week, you get the pleasure of betting against him or Geno Smith or who else would? Is there anybody else? Is it just him and Geno?
No, it's just those.
Just him?
Yeah.
Okay. You get the benefit of betting against him or Geno next week, so you get to make up all your losses this week. So, yeah, I'm with you. Go heavy on the Packers. Aaron Rodgers isn't losing this game, and he's just like twisting the knife in the Packers. I thought they were going to miss the playoffs and not get anything out of not get a chance to see Jordan Love play, but he's actually going to make the playoffs so that he can just like rub it in their faces when people give him the you should have sat it. Like, oh yeah, well I should have sat. Hey, now we're in the playoffs. Fuck you.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let me just double check. Yeah. All right, that's it for games that have consequences in terms of the standings and who's going to be seated where or who's going to make the playoffs. We'll get to the rest of the games that we have to get to. We'll start with the Minnesota Vikings are traveling to Chicago. They are 6-point favorites. This is down from a 7.5 point line on Wednesday. The over/under is 42.5, minus 275 for the Vikings, plus 230 for the Bears. I usually don't bet games like this, Jimmy, so I throw caution out there for this. I don't know how long these guys are going to play. Do you think Justin Fields plays 4 quarters here? I would assume that Kirk Cousins isn't going to play 4 quarters.
No, yeah, I think we're just everybody out there, just these games we're going to talk about next. Like most of them, you're probably going to want to stay away from because there's going to be so much variance in what's going on. I'm going to take the Vikings here. I think they'll be able to get up early, but it's hard to say. I don't know how long you're going to let Fields play. The Vikings starters, they're probably going to want to get a few good series in with that abysmal game they played last week. But
they'll probably feed Jefferson a little bit, see if they can get him a legitimate run at the record.
Yeah, you'll have a squeaky wheel Jefferson game, give him a chance at the record. But I think probably first half at the most for the Viking starters, and then they'll all be out as they're I think they're locked in at the 4, I think. Locked in at the 3.
Yeah, they're locked in at the 3.
Locked in at the 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, for all the reasons you just said, I like Chicago. I think Chicago might actually play their starters the whole game. Yeah. And I don't see anybody from Minnesota really playing past the first half.
Yeah.
Which is a lot how I see the next game on the docket, which is Tampa Bay traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are 4-point favorites. The over/under is 40.5, plus 165 for Tampa Bay, minus 200. This is another line where nobody expects Tom Brady to play this full game, and Tampa Bay is probably going to have guys seated out. So if you're going to bet this game, I guess you put your money on Atlanta because they have something to play for, but this is another stay away for me. Just like you said, all of these are stay aways.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, did you have an opportunity to watch the Tampa game last week?
I only saw a couple of the highlights.
So, we've talked about what we're going to do with Tom Brady in the playoffs and how bad they looked.
Yeah,
and then they went
scary.
And had a game like that. And I'm like, son of a bitch, he's doing it to me again.
Tampa and they're going to wind up playing Dallas probably, and that's not a matchup that you can really exploit because I think Dallas is pretty good.
Well, I don't know.
Look, I'd be much more comfortable betting on Tom Brady if they were playing the Giants.
Well, okay, I'll give you that. But that Tampa defense is really good, and Dak just likes giving the ball away.
Yeah, or if they were playing Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially if, it's a playoff game. Yeah, absolutely. But, yeah, I think Tampa starters, maybe 2 series, maybe. You got to go. If you're going to bet on this, you'd have to go Atlanta. I like the under, too. I don't think be a lot of points scored here.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably the only thing to really play in this game is the under. Our next matchup sees the Denver Broncos hosting the LA Chargers. The Broncos are 3-point favorites. The over/under is 39.5, plus 145 for the Chargers, minus 164. This is another game where I don't expect the Chargers starters to play a whole hell of a lot, if at all.
I don't know. Brandon Staley is such a weird dude. I could see the
analytics would say sit them.
It would, but he's so different. I could see him doing some dumb shit. Well, I don't know. This game is just a total stay away from me. I'm taking Denver, but it's just so weird because he didn't even play. If he didn't play the starters at all, or they played all 4 quarters, neither of those things would surprise me.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think you can bet any of these games.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Fighting Jeff Saturdays, the Indianapolis Colts hosting the Houston Texans. The Colts are 2.5-point favorites. Over/under sits at 38, minus 148 for the Colts, plus 125 for Houston. Indianapolis should do everything in their power to lose this game, as should Houston. because
Right.
Indianapolis should not want Houston to get the 1 pick, and Houston should want to get the 1 pick. I think the Colts probably win this game but I don't know, man. This is like another one of those games where Houston should not win this game. Like they
This,
really should not win this game, but we've seen Houston win this game in the past because what was that, 2 years ago that happened? Or was
yep.
that, yeah, they
Yeah.
won like a meaningless game and they like lost 2 spots in the draft position.
So this may also be a game where both teams bench their starters. like, like this is
Houston
going to
gives
be
up an opening kickoff for a touchdown and then just goes wildcat the rest of the game.
like this game is going to be ugly. I guess I'm going to take the Texans because they would do something stupid. Like, yeah, they would do something stupid like that. So I guess I'll take the Texans.
And finally, we have the New Orleans Saints hosting the Carolina Panthers. The Saints are 3.5-point favorites. Over/under is 41.5. Plus 150 for the Panthers. Minus 175 for the Saints. I guess we'll see if Wilkes has any chance of being the coach down there, and we'll see what Carolina looks like. They mostly played better for him than they did Matt Rule. I think Matt Rule is a bad coach, but this is a chance for him to show what he can do, and that this will be, I think, front and center when they're deciding what happens with him in terms of being the head coach or if he has to find another job.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the rumors are the players really like playing for him. I think he got a raw deal with his last stop anyway. So hopefully karma works out for him and he gets this job permanently. I'm going to take Carolina here. I still think they have a better roster than New Orleans, playing a little harder. New Orleans is another team, though, going to have a lot of uncertainty and a lot of key places for New Orleans.
And they actually own the rights to Sean Payton.
Yeah. Yep.
So they're probably gonna get a first-round draft pick out of this.
Yeah, and I would say, unless it's like a top 5 pick, like Sean Payton is worthy of a first-round pick.
Yeah, based on what he did in New Orleans, I think that's 100% correct. All right, well, that's the NFL slate. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be really interesting to see what teams get in. We'll have our full rundown next week of who we like for the 6 first-round playoff games. Jimmy, thank you for joining me on this Friday night to talk some football, man. Playoffs are just around the corner.
Man, no place I'd rather be, brother. Thank you for everybody sticking in with us this season, and hopefully we'll get you in the right direction for the playoffs.
And I would like to thank all of you for listening. Please give us a like or a subscribe and share this with your friends out there in the football world. For Jimmy Champ, I am Evan Belfiore, and we are No Broken Legs.